Most people picture Goa as a strip of sand and beach resorts, but peel back that modern veneer to find an ancient, thriving civilization. Thousands of years before the first European galleons arrived, Hindu dynasties like the Mauryas, the Kadambas, and the Vijayanagara Empire carved out deep agricultural networks. They cultivated the rich soil and laid infrastructure that allowed early human settlements to prosper. This map shows exactly why the specific coastline mattered. Trade routes from Africa, Arabia, Persia, and Southeast Asia all converged right here. Goa was a wealthy, cosmopolitan port moving spices, horses, and textiles long before the age of exploration began. With those merchants came a profound exchange of ideas. The locals developed a shared language and grounded their culture in the fertile laterite earth, establishing a robust spiritual identity. Centuries of indigenous prosperity and spiritual roots formed the bedrock of Goan life, long before the first tourists arrived. By the early 16th century, Europe was desperate. The traditional overland trade routes to the east were choked off, forcing powers like Portugal to seek a direct maritime path to India. In 1510, Afonso de Albuquerque guided a heavily armed Portuguese armada onto the Goan coast. Looking at this timeline, 1510 marks a violent transition. Albuquerque claimed the wealthy hub for the Portuguese crown, and they didn't leave. Over the next 4.5 centuries, this occupation swallowed the historical space, far outlasting standard colonial periods. The 1510 conquest officially ended local rule, pulling Goa into a global imperial network that would manage its laws, its trade, and its religion for 4 centuries. The colonizers terraformed the region, making Goa the capital of the vast Portuguese Estado da India. They erected heavy military forts and imported an entirely European administrative apparatus. You can see the physical weight of that structural overhaul today. The imposing red brick and laterite stone facade of the Basilica of Bom Jesus still stands as concrete proof of the empire's grand construction projects. But that architecture came at a severe human cost. The new power systematically suppressed traditional practices and initiated an aggressive, often violent push for mass religious conversions. This ultimately culminated in the Goa Inquisition. The Portuguese state institutionalized the destruction of hundreds of Hindu temples, enforcing rigid Catholic dominance that was carved into stone. The colonizers actively sought to erase the ancient identity they found, designing a capital that operated as a total mirror of Europe. Faced with the Inquisition, the Goan identity did not break. Instead, it adapted, moving its deepest traditions underground. Families fiercely protected the native Konkani language in their homes. Entire villages smuggled their sacred deities out of the main territories, rebuilding their physical temples safely beyond the immediate reach of the Portuguese borders. Over generations, this survival tactic fostered a deep Indo-Portuguese synthesis. Neighbors began blending their traditions, leading to a reality where Hindu and Catholic festivals were celebrated jointly by the same communities. Even their imported pastimes were uniquely repurposed. Locals adopted soccer as a unifying force, bypassing strict colonial hierarchies and bringing villages together to forge a unified cultural spirit on the ground level. By quietly transforming foreign influences, the locals built a distinct culture. The Portuguese Empire could occupy the land, but they never truly owned its people. In 1947, the geopolitical landscape fractured. The British Empire withdrew, and as Prime Minister Nehru addressed the assembly podium, the rest of the Indian subcontinent officially became a free republic. Yet Goa remained completely chained to the past. Under the rigid, dictatorial grip of Portugal's Antonio de Oliveira Salazar, the territory was denied the democratic rights sweeping the rest of the peninsula. This stark contrast ignited the Goan self-determination movement. Intellectuals like Tristan de Bragança Cunha laid the philosophical foundation, demanding the same freedom that their neighbors now held. Ordinary citizens organized. They ran secret radio broadcasts and launched peaceful civil resistance campaigns, crossing literal boundaries to protest the occupation. A massive democratic India surrounding a tiny, subjugated European colony created a geopolitical friction that could not last. By 1961, diplomatic pressure had completely failed. Prime Minister Nehru made the final call to authorize military force. India launched Operation Vijay, It was a swift, multi-pronged military action specifically designed to overwhelm the remaining Portuguese administration and forcibly evict the colonizers. The resistance collapsed. After 4.5 centuries of continuous occupation, the Portuguese flag was finally lowered. It marked the formal end of the longest colonial occupation in history, integrating the coastal enclave into India as a Union territory. The people of Goa inherited a hybridized legacy, one shaped by hundreds of years of both resistance and adaptation, and they now had to learn the mechanics of self-governance. With the colonizers gone, the new threat isn't an occupying army. It's the challenge of preserving a hard-won, ancient identity against the overwhelming pressures of the 21st century.